Hello everyone, welcome to lesson number 4, and in this lesson we will be discussing administrative appeal and review. Before we begin, I want to show to you the flow chart in administrative sanctions. The flow chart actually covers 3 stages and we start with stage 1. In stage 1, we start with the filing of the complaint and then the determination of the existence of prima facie case. Of course, common sense will tell us that if there is a prima facie case, a formal charge shall be issued, while if there is no prima facie case, the complaint shall be dismissed. On the second stage, there shall be the issuance of a formal charge, the filing of an answer, and when the answer is unsatisfactory, of course, it will result to formal investigation, while if the answer is satisfactory, the case shall be dismissed. Then we will have the pre-hearing conference on the third stage. It will be followed by a formal investigation and a decision. But before we dig deeper into the different stages of an administrative case, what then is the concept of administrative appeal? The concept of administrative appeal refers to the review by a higher agency of the decisions rendered by an administrative agency commenced by a petition of an interested party. Note that administrative appeals are established by the 1987 Administrative Code, which will govern primarily in the absence of a specific law applicable. So under the 1987 Administrative Code, administrative appeals from a decision of an agency are taken to the department head. What then is the concept of an administrative review? Administrative appeals are not the only way by which a decision of an administrative agency may be reviewed. Of course, a superior officer or department head may, upon his or her own volition, review a subordinate's decision pursuant to the power of control. However, administrative reviews by a superior officer are subject to the caveat that a final and executory decision is not included within the power of control and hence can no longer be altered by administrative review. Again, class, administrative review refers to the process through which decisions made by administrative agency are examined or assessed for their legality, correctness, or compliance with the relevant laws and regulations. So you have to think of administrative review as a mechanism for ensuring accountability, fairness, and proper application of the law within the administrative system. In the concepts class that we have just discussed, administrative review can occur through administrative appeals or through the authority of a superior officer or department head to review decisions made by its subordinates. So administrative appeals now typically involve a formal process where a party aggrieved of an administrative agency seeks a review of that decision by a higher authority within the administrative structure. And this could be a review board, a tribunal, or another administrative body with the power to reconsider the decision and potentially overturn or modify it. However, there is also another concept that administrative review can also occur through the initiative of a superior officer or department head who has the power of control over the decision-making process within that certain administrative agency. So this means that they can independently review decisions made by their subordinates to ensure that they align with the legal requirements, administrative policies, and overall goals of your own agency. It is important to remember, class, that while a superior has the authority to review decisions made by its subordinates, there are also limitations to this power. So ano ba ang mga limitation? For example, once a decision becomes final and executory, meaning it has gone through all possible avenues of reviews, and no longer subject to further appeal, it is now beyond the scope of administrative review. So in other words, administrative review cannot alter decisions that have reached a final and conclusive status. Okay? Always remember that. Okay, so what then is the effect of administrative decisions rendered beyond the period provided for in statute? So it is usual for statutes to require that administrative decisions be rendered within a certain period of time or within a prescribed period. So these requirements are generally directory and not jurisdictional, meaning a decision rendered beyond such period is not necessarily null and void in the absence of provision to the contrary. So for example, class, Section 5D of RA 875 provides that unfair labor practices cases must be decided within 30 days after their submission. It also provides that the 30-day period shall be considered mandatory in character. This does not mean, however, that a decision rendered beyond the 30-day period is null and void. So after a court has acquired jurisdiction over the case, it retains such jurisdiction until the case is finally disposed of. So the 30-day period was designed to provide the parties to the industrial dispute with the means to compel prompt decisions of the case by the court by a writ of mandamus, administrative complaint, or a similar recourse. So here, when the Congress enacted Section 5D of RA 875, the Congress did not say that a decision rendered after the 30-day period would be null and void. So again, in this example, even if the law, more particularly Section 5D of RA 875, mandates that unfair labor practices cases must be decided within 30 days after their submission, it explicitly states that the 30-day period is considered mandatory. However, it is also important to distinguish between the words directory and jurisdictional requirements. So a directory requirement is one that provides guidance or direction, but it does not affect the jurisdiction of the court or the administrative body to hear and decide a case. So in contrast, class, a jurisdictional requirement is one that must be strictly complied with for the court or the administrative body to have the authority to act on the case. So what then is the effect of delay? If a decision is rendered beyond the 30-day period as specified in RA 875 Section 5D, it does not automatically render the decision made beyond the 30-day period null and void. So the delay does not necessarily deprive the administrative body of jurisdiction over the case. So here, when we say that the Congress did not say that the decision rendered after the 30-day period would be null and void, it means that the court or the administrative body has a continued jurisdiction over the case. Meaning, once a court has acquired jurisdiction over a case, it retains that jurisdiction until the case is finally disposed of. Therefore, even if a decision is delayed, the court still has the authority to hear and decide the case. So, tanungin niyo ako, ma'am, bakit pa may sinabi na 30-day period kung ang ibang decision naman is render beyond the 30-day period? So the purpose, class, of setting a specific time frame, such as the 30-day period in Section 5D of RA 875, is to ensure prompt resolution of cases, particularly in matters as sensitive as unfair labor practices. This time frame provides parties with a means to compel prompt decisions through legal recourse. So paano pa? How do you compel the administrative body to decide within the 30-day period? Then you can file a writ of mandamus or an administrative complaint against the agency. So again, what do you need to remember under this slide? While statutes may prescribe time frames for administrative decisions, exceeding this time frame does not necessarily invalidate the decisions rendered by the administrative body. That administrative body retains jurisdiction over the case, and the delay may prompt parties to seek legal remedies to compel prompt resolution. Don't forget that. But what if the decision is void or invalid? If the decision, class, is void or invalid, it is not enforceable and may be disregarded or challenged in a collateral proceeding, and it affords no protection for acts done under it. What does it mean? So when we talk about an enforceability of a void or invalid order, automatically it lacks legal force and it is not enforceable. This means that any attempt to execute or carry out the order will not be recognized by law. So for example, if an administrative agency issues an order that is later determined to be void, individuals or entities are not obligated to comply with it. So what do you do with void or invalid orders? Void or invalid orders, class, can be disregarded or challenged through legal means, of course. So individuals or entities affected by such orders have the right to contest their validity in courts. So they can now seek remedies such as appealing the decision to a higher administrative authority or filing a lawsuit to have the order declared void. So there are actually legal actions that can be initiated separately from the original proceeding in which the order was issued. So for example, if an administrative agency issues an invalid order affecting the party's rights, the party may then initiate a separate legal action such as a petition for judicial review to challenge the validity of the order. But always remember that void or invalid orders do not afford any protection for acts done under them. So this means that individuals or entities who rely on or carry out actions based on void order or decision do so after their own risk. So they cannot claim legal protection or immunity for their actions if the court order is later determined to be invalid. So it is essential, class, for individuals and entities to be aware of the validity of the orders they receive and to always seek legal remedies if they believe that an order is void or invalid. Questions. Can there be appeals and reviews of admin decisions? So in many administrative systems, there is a hierarchy of authority so that a review may be had within the system itself. An administrative review may be provided for where a court is made a part of that administrative scheme with supervisory powers of such extent that its action on review is deemed different from its ordinary judicial functions. What does it mean? So in most administrative systems, class, there exists a hierarchical structure of authorities. So this means that administrative agencies are organized in a way where there are lower level authorities and higher level superiors overseeing them. So this hierarchy allows for reviews of decisions made by that lower administrative authorities by their superiors. Now, when we take a look at the administrative system itself, provisions are often made for reviews or decisions. This means that if a party, class, is dissatisfied with a decision made by a lower level administrative authority, they have the option to seek a review of that decision by a higher level authority within the same administrative structure. So this internal review process ensures accountability and consistency within the administrative system. Again, apart from the internal administrative reviews, administrative decisions can also be subject to judicial reviews. In fact, in some cases, class, administrative schemes incorporate the judiciary as part of the review process. So this means that courts are granted supervisory powers over administrative decisions to ensure they are lawful, fair, and consistent with the legal standards. In the Philippines, class, the concept of appeals and reviews of administrative decisions is deeply embedded in the administrative law framework. So one notable example is the process of appealing decisions made by administrative agencies to higher administrative authorities or to the courts. So for example, let's consider the case of an individual who disagrees with the decision made by the SSS or the Social Security System regarding their eligibility for certain benefit. So if the individual believes that the decision of the SSS is incorrect or unfair, they now have the option to appeal the decision within the administrative system first. So that is what we call administrative law. Hindi muna kayo lalabas dyan sa administrative agency. You are not allowed to go to court dahil madidismiss lang yan if you do not exhaust administrative remedies. So here, in this case, the SSS typically provides for an internal appeals process where individuals can request a review of decisions made by lower-level SSS officials. So this review may be conducted by higher-level officials within the SSS hierarchy who have the authority to consider and potentially overturn the initial decision. Now, what happens if the individual is dissatisfied with the outcome of the internal administrative review? Or what if they believe that their rights have been violated? What can they do? They can seek judicial review of the SSS decision. They can file a petition for review with the appropriate court, such as the Regional Trial Court, challenging the legality or correctness of the administrative decision. So again, let us take a look at the flowchart in administrative sanctions. Stage 1 po tayo. We start with the filing of the complaint. So what should be the content of your complaint? There should be the name and address of the complainant, the name, address, position, and office of the person complained of, the narration of relevant and material facts, certified copies of documentary evidence and affidavits of witnesses kung meron po, and the certification of non-forum shopping. Naalala ko dati, when you just send a letter to the ombudsman, kahit hindi po siya verified, ini-entertain po yan ni ombudsman and ni civil service. Siguro over time, na-realize nila na ang dami na nilang reklamong nakukuha. That's why all complaints should now be verified. After filing of the complaint, there now exists the determination of a prima facie case. Ano po ang prima facie case? It means that there is sufficient evidence that the respondent is probably guilty of an offense, and if not refuted by other evidence, it becomes conclusive that the respondent is guilty thereof. Now, what happens if a prima facie case exists? A formal charge shall be issued. Kung ang formal charge po ay in-issue, this means that the disciplinary authority notifies the respondent of the charges against him or issues a formal charge against him or her. Now, kung wala naman pong prima facie case, the complaint is dismissed. The stage 1 is very easy. Let us now go to stage 2. Di ba nag-end tayo sa issuance of a formal charge? Kung meron ng issuance of a formal charge, pinaalam na sa inyo kasi nga 'di ba notice, and the reasonable time afforded to file an answer is very crucial in an administrative complaint. Then you will now file your answer. The answer must be in writing and under oath, and it shall be specific and shall contain material facts and applicable laws, if any, including original or certified copies of documentary evidence, sworn statements covering testimonies of witnesses, if there be any, in support of one's case. Now, when you file your answer, if the answer is unsatisfactory, it would result to a formal investigation and the issuance of preventive suspensive order kung kinakailangan po. Now, if your answer naman is satisfactory, it would result to case dismissal. Stage 3 po tayo. We now have the pre-hearing conference. So, the hearing officer shall conduct a pre-hearing conference for the parties to appear, consider, and agree on any of the following. Number 1, the stipulation of facts, the simplification of issues, the identification and marking of evidence of the parties, the waiver of objections to admissibility evidence, limiting the number of witnesses and their names, the dates of subsequent hearings, and such other matters as may aid in the prompt and just resolution of the case. Then, meron na po tayong formal investigation. So, a formal investigation shall be conducted where the merits of the case cannot be decided judiciously without conducting such investigation or when the respondent elects to have an investigation. Pagkatapos po ng formal investigation, meron na po tayong decision. Kung not guilty, so example lang po ito is for the Department of Agriculture, they shall decide the case within 30 days from the receipt of the formal investigation report. If you will be found not guilty, automatic dismiss po ang kaso. Pero what if unfortunately guilty pala kayo? Then you can file a motion for reconsideration of the agency's decision. Ano ang sabi ng law? The adverse party may file within 15 days from receipt of the decision. So kung against naman po kay complainant, the private complainant may file a motion for reconsideration from the decision of the Civil Service Regional Office. Now, we now move on to the appeal on the agency's decision with the CSC. So, an appeal or petition to the Civil Service Commission shall not stop the decision from being executory. So, kung suspended po kayo, even if naka-appeal na po kayo sa CSC, continues pa rin ang inyong suspension, except cases requiring confirmation of the Department Secretary. Now, let us go for motion for reconsideration of the decision of the CSC. Kasi di ba una po nag-motion for reconsideration kayo. Then, nag-appeal kayo sa Civil Service. Then, hindi nyo nagustuhan ang decision ng Civil Service, then you file a motion for reconsideration of the decision of the Civil Service. It may be elevated either by complainant or the respondent by way of a petition for review within 15 days from receipt thereof. Kung hindi nyo naman po nagustuhan ang decision ng CSC, you may file a petition for review on certiorari on the Court of Appeals. And you may petition for review under Rule 43 of the Rules of Court. And then pag ayaw nyo naman po ang decision ng CA, you may file a petition for review on certiorari on the Court of Appeals.